How would it feel to have a thriving fitness business and have the freedom to enjoy life at the fullest? Well, that is exactly what the Trainer Revenue Multiplier Show is going to give you. My name is Mathew Park. This is Jaime Filer.
Hey guys.
And we are here to serve.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Trainer Revenue Multiplier podcast. As always, I am your host, Jaime Filer, and I am joined by two of the most empowered and empowering women I've ever met / had the pleasure of coaching. Coach Tiny T, Coach Amanda Voisin. How are you guys?
Fantastic.
Very good, thank you.
I appreciate you joining me on a Canadian holiday. I do respect your time so much. So I think I would love to start with, it doesn't necessarily have to be a background of how you got into the fitness industry, but more so what made you decide to become an entrepreneurial coach rather than just working for a Good Life Fitness or a big Globo box gym. Mm-hmm. Amanda, go first.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be honest, even when I was working at Good Life, I always kind of saw it as a stepping stone to something bigger, just because I always felt like, you know, my vision, the creativity I wanted to bring to things, the way I wanted to serve clients, it was beyond what I was allowed to do when I was working for someone else, right? There were always these parameters you had to operate within. And I always felt like I could give clients such a better experience if I was just allowed to do more.
Absolutely.
So the logical way to do that was to do it myself, right? So
Absolutely.
Good Life was always the stepping stone. I knew I had so much more to give as a coach than what I was able to do there. So it just made sense right from the get-go, to be honest.
I love that. And T, what inspired you?
For myself, it was actually not planned at all. I worked in the financial industry for about 10 years, and I was always passionate about fitness, but I never perceived it as a means to make a living. I was more, I would say I was like a bit risk adverse, having grown up, and we didn't have so many resources. I was looking more for security and a big organization where I could have a successful career. And I remember having a shift where I actually wanted to go into fitness when I was about 25. I'm 35 now. I am. Oh my God, it goes fast. And at that time, when I was thinking of having a career change, I did do my personal training certificates. I did everything. And I was looking at gyms. I was like, there's no way I'm leaving my job at the bank for this. There's no way. And then finally, when I competed when I was 28, I felt it brought me onto this different level, like I won my first competition and made me realize what I was really capable of. And I just remember going back to work and feeling like I was meant to do something else. And I actually went on a sick leave with absolutely no idea where I was going, but I knew I wasn't going back. And that's where I actually met Mathew. And Mathew was the one that gave me clarity and that showed me that, what I was already doing at the bank was similar to the strategy that we would implement to have my own business. And within a month, I was making just as much, if not more money than at the bank. And the rest is history.
I love both of your origin stories, as it were. Super impactful. It always comes back to service, right? That's why we do it. And it sounds like both of you just felt like you could serve more and better by going out on your own. Right?
Absolutely.
So my next question, and again, I don't want to say we'll skip the hard stuff, but what was it that got you to the point, or at what point in your business did you realize that you'd gotten as far as you could go alone and you thought maybe it was time to hire a business coach? What was that point for both of you?
Well, for myself, I always valued having partners. Even when I was a financial advisor, it's one thing that I would say, that success is not achieved in isolation of others. It's like when you look at any big corporation, like we cannot, as an individual, have the expertise to handle every single angle, the marketing, the customer service, the business strategies, the growth, the retention. There's just so much areas, there's a difference between being a coach that's taking care of clients and being a business. So for myself, it was just an obvious, it was just something that was already ingrained in me, you know, to value partners and to see the need to have them if we want to grow and evolve.
So where were you either financially, or what was the bottleneck where you're like, okay, now it's time to bring in a partner?
Well, I was with Mathew from the beginning, right? So it's like I started with Mathew. So I think my experience is a little bit different because it's going to be a bit 4 years on right now that I'm with Mathew, and I've never left him. I was never tempted to leave him, and I'm never going to. I think that sometimes we need to add other partners, which is normal. Like I've dealt with you as well, you know, to overcome certain challenges. But, you know, for me, I see Mathew as the backbone of my business. And whenever I see that, okay, we're having certain challenges, then yes, you know, we can seek other partners with new expertise that could help us. But most of that is found within the program of that he provides, you know, so.
I love that. And Amanda, I mean, you were a coach, you started your business before joining TRM. So what was it that made you want to start working with us?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like right from the get-go, when I first started coaching, you know, of course you hear at the Good Life I was at in particular, a lot of people said they wanted to leave. They said they wanted to have their own business, but no one ever did it. And I was always of the mindset that, like, if you're genuinely crazy passionate about something, if you work your ass off, pardon my French, you're going to be successful. It's only a matter of time. And I truly believed that most people weren't successful simply because they gave up too soon, right? So I absolutely started AJF, left Good Life, did all of that stuff. And for ages, the big long-term goal that I was gunning for as hard as I could was to have my own business and have my own gym.
Good for you.
And I accomplished both of those things. And then once I accomplished both of those things, I found myself in a position where I was going, okay, now what? Right?
Yeah.
For so many years, that was the big end goal. And I got there and I was like, okay, now I want more. But how do I do that? Right? Yeah. So that was the point at which I was thinking to myself, you know, I had been competing for years myself as well. I have a competition coach. I have coaches for other areas of life. Yep. Why wouldn't I get a business coach as well? That just makes sense, right? So that was when I kind of started to explore that, and I found TRM through Marcus, through the owner of Magnum, because I had been with them for years. It was, you know, he was a person I trusted. So when he recommended Mathew, that was kind of the logical next step, and it kind of almost seemed like it was coming at the perfect time when I was already at that place. Yep. Yeah, I'd scaled to a certain point, but I felt stuck. And I'd honestly never really thought about what came after that, because that was the big goal, right? So that's kind of what made me take that leap. And sure enough, it allowed me to get to that next level and the next level. And it opened a lot of doors, right?
Yeah. So out of curiosity, has there ever been a point in your journey as an entrepreneur where elements of self-doubt slipped in, or have you been like, nope, I am a badass. I've always been a badass. And
I think there always is, right?
Yeah. I think any of us, like, no matter what point you're at, you're always going to have those thoughts, because every time you hit that big goal, you get to that next level, all of a sudden you're in the next level, but you're surrounded by people who are ahead of you, right? So it's very natural to play like the comparison game, I feel, but I always try to catch myself and think, no, like, this is inspiration because this shows another levels possible. Now I just have to figure out how to get there too. You know?
I love that reframe. And T, how do you deal with, whether it's self-consciousness in your business or imposter syndrome? How do you overcome that barrier, that block?
Well, I almost feel like building a business is a bit like weight loss. You know, you hit a plateau at some point, and it's like when you want to go further, it's going to require new strategies. And unless you keep doing, you know, if you keep doing the same strategies, you're going to get the same results. That's what it comes down to. So I had heard once on a podcast, because I love listening to positive podcasts every single morning, of people that inspire me. And there was a basketball coach, and he said, he's like, if I made it this far, if I made it this far when before I was broke, when before I didn't have as much knowledge, I didn't have as much contacts. Well, I'm not supposed to stop now. It's like Amanda said, the thing is, what's always surprising about being an entrepreneur is that I think that we've exceeded our expectations. I think that we've already built a life that we could have never imagined for ourselves. Like, I remember saying, when I'm 30 years old, all I want is to make 100 grand. And it's like, I thought that was the biggest goal. And then you get there, like Amanda says, and then you're like, well, what's next? And sometimes you're not used to it. You're not used, and you get used to this momentum. And then when it stops, you're kind of like, be blank page, but for me, that's my reminder. It's just like, okay, well, it's time to disconnect. It's time to read more. It's time to network more. It's time to get inspiration. It's time to talk to more professionals. It's time to talk to your clients so you could start planting new seeds so that you could keep growing and really reach that new level. But getting discouraged is part of it, but I never let it really take me down, because I just remember everything I've already done. And I'm like, okay, well, we got this,
I love that. It sounds like a great analogy would be, instead of just looking up the ladder at how far you have to go from your goal, look down and be like, oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's it.
So you mentioned momentum, Tara, and I think it's really important. What, for both of you, have been the biggest?
We all have that problem.
Right. Yeah, right. I know, Amanda. Yeah, Amanda too. What is the biggest difference? You're both over 20K a month earners. If you were to have essentially a dam with all of the water on one side, but you removed one brick and everything came like flooding forward, what was the big, we'll call it a break in your business that just caused you to explode?
Amanda, I'm going to leave you go on that one first.
Honestly, for me, the hardest part I've discovered of being a business owner and progressing and all that is your own mindset. That is 1000% the hardest part, because when your mindset is good, when you're in alignment, when you feel fulfilled, balanced, those positive things with your own mental health, when that's in place, you feel like you're unstoppable, like you're on a roll, you hit all these new levels, all these opportunities just seem to come to you. But if your mindset is not on point, if you're having a crappy week, if you're getting in your own head, if you're feeling negative, it's going to feel impossible to move forward. Right. So for me, and this is an ongoing challenge at any level, I found, right? Because we're human, we have emotions, we're not robots, right? We're going to have variance in our personal life. But for me, I find when that piece of the puzzle's in place, that piece of the dam is pulled out, so to speak, that's when you can move freaking mountains, because you're going to feel like everything you're doing is in alignment with where you should be. So I think a big key for me is learning to very consistently hold on to those pieces of my daily routine that I know keep my mindset in that positive place. And I feel like that's when that growth becomes more sustainable. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Amanda, I remember
I was like, I can relate. That's why.
I think, well, we definitely all can, but I remember as soon as you got your morning routine and you're like, it's now second nature to wake up at 4:30. I definitely saw a ton of growth with our coaching for sure. Tara, what's your big brick?
I think that one of the most essential things in business that people sometimes forget, and I've seen it because, I work with a lot of other coaches as well. I have coaches on my team. I think it's remembering the importance that your client always comes first, always. And sometimes what happens is, we could get caught up, and it's happened to myself, get caught up in growth, get caught up in numbers. But if you get too caught up in growth and you get too caught up on numbers, like let's say activities, we'll see a lot of coaches that will emphasize a lot social media. All of my business growth was organic growth. I was capable of hitting, 10K without even having constant social media or Instagram. So I think when we're putting 80% of our activities on social media, we may be attracting, however, we're also losing from the back door. So in my opinion, our customer service should be number one. We should always be focusing on our client experience and fixing the holes in our business by looking for feedback. Like, for example, if a client leaves, we shouldn't just ask, not ask questions. If the client invested in us once, it's because they have the money. Why are they leaving? They don't perceive the value. So I always went back in my business and looked at, okay, how can I continue to meet my clients' goals? How can I make this a long-term process? And as a result of doing that, I have an extremely strong retention. We have clients that are with us for 2, 3, 4 years, which is almost unheard of in coaching. But it's all because of that mindset of saying, you know what, our client comes first. How can I make this better for them? What challenges are they facing now? So I think that should be the base of our activities, is really our client experience and a little bit attraction. But your attraction is absolutely good for nothing if your clients are leaving out the back door.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. 100%. Yeah. My next question is about balance and life. You both have significant others. You both have fur babies. You both love to travel. I'm curious how you balance being, the CEO, owner, operator, while also living a life that includes stuff outside of being a coach.
Well, for myself, I have a certain way of seeing this, is that, I've only started this year after 4 years having more time. Now delegating, now beginning to trust my partners, because that was a big, big, big one. I had a lot of trouble letting go, feeling like people can't do it like me. And, you taught me and Mathew taught me how to really, I would say, create mini-me's that, can do it the same way. But that was a huge one for me. But I never really saw it as a problem, because I'm so passionate about what I do that I don't feel like I'm working. I would prefer to do this than take days off. And a lot of people, they say, yo, you're crazy, but I love to work. I've always loved to work. And my mindset is, what's good for somebody else is good for them. What's good for me is good for me. And I see it as, I give 100% in everything I do. So when I work, I give it 100%. And then if I rest, if it comes when it does sporadically, I'll give it 100%. But for me, that's my balance, because my business is my baby. And that's just how I make it work. I say to my man, he knows this is how it is. That's why it works with him. Otherwise it wouldn't. And he's okay with that too.
Perfect. Good. And Amanda, what does balance, do we have balance? If so, what does it look like?
To be honest, I totally relate to loving to work, obviously, because I feel like as a business owner, we wouldn't be business owners if we didn't. Sure. Let's be honest. We're all high achievers. We all are people who like to go 100% in, right? I've definitely found for myself, for that mindset piece, again, that I was talking about, that can be a big limiter. I find, like, it's one of those things, right? Like, if your cup's always half full because you're never filling it up completely, you're always going to be operating at like a fraction of what you actually could be, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I've definitely learned to set distinct boundaries, and that really helps. For example, I'm at the cottage right now, for one, but communication with clients, for example, that was a big one, right? Like, I always I would want to respond quickly to people. Yes. I felt like to be a good coach, I have to be present. Available, I have to be available. Yeah. But the truth is, as you scale, that just means you're constantly on your phone. Mm-hmm. It means you never are present. You never can disconnect, and your cup's always not full, right? Mm-hmm. So for clients, for example, I respond within 24 hours. Everyone knows that. It's a clear boundary right out of the gate. And that means when I'm at the cottage like this, I'm putting my phone away sometimes and just spending time with my family, right? Yes. And I think having those boundaries in your business, honestly, is really important. Yeah, because otherwise you do end up never really realizing your full potential. You're always operating at less than full capacity, if that makes sense. I have
to agree with that, actually, Amanda, because you know what? That was a huge, huge, huge one for me. And I just helped another coach with that as well, where she was actually thinking of quitting coaching, because it took so much energy out of her. And I had the same problem as you, where it was like I felt I had to answer right away, and it was making me sick. Because like you said, it's okay to work, like I said, to do 100%, but when you're not working, you're not working. Your phone is not on. We shouldn't be answering all the time. So I think it's very important to lay those expectations out from the beginning. And what really helped in my business do that was it's defined in my contracts also, that we have a certain time to answer, that there's a specific method of communication. So people can't DM me, they can't Facebook me. It's on WhatsApp. I can't check my WhatsApp all the time, because you're absolutely right. Otherwise we'll burn out, so boundaries is definitely important. Yeah.
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 And you'll lose that passion, right? You'll lose why you got
You
started.
will, yeah. And your customer service will suck because you'll be like, you lose patience.
Yeah. I try to keep perspective as well, honestly, and think like, as much as we love our business, it's part of our life. It's not our whole life, and it shouldn't be, right? So like,
Yes.
having a date night with my fiance on Friday evening, making our homemade burgers every week, and just putting our phone away. Like, these things are
Yes.
really important, because down the line, like, a lot of us, we do want families, we do want kids, right? I know that's in the cards for me, and I don't want to be a mom that's constantly working and can never get back to their kids. So I think it's important to, like, at least for me, to practice setting those boundaries now, so that down the line, when that time does come, it's not a massive shift. I've already created a business that functions well that way,
And delegating helps a lot with that also, not having all the responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's amazing advice, which means that I now have to pivot my next question. But I think a more heartfelt question would be, what's something you've had to learn the hard way that if you could pass on to the next generation of coaches coming up, they won't have to go through what you went through?
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, I think it's like Amanda just like put the cherry on top, because for me, one of my biggest challenge was establishing boundaries. And, it took me years and years and years to understand it, because we have this idea as a coach that it means that you have to be there all the time, that you're supposed to hold someone by the hand. But one thing that I understood is that, we are experts in our field. Like, I am a naturopath, a licensed naturopath. I can help with dietary advice, lifestyle advice. I'm a licensed coach. I can help with training advice, but it is not in my expertise to provide emotional support. It is not psychological or emotional support. So now I've understood that, sometimes, like we had said, the importance of having partners. Well, when I had to go through my personal journey, I needed multiple partners. I needed to have a psychologist. I needed to have a coach. I needed to have a family doctor. So our job as a professional is to refer our clients to other professionals so they can receive the support they require to be successful. So I think that was the biggest challenge for me, was accepting that I cannot do everything and still find a solution. And once I found the solution, was communicating these expectations at the onboarding process so that the client could remain satisfied with the process, because they don't expect it from you. So that was a huge, huge, huge one in my business that allowed me to protect my mental health and also to provide a service within my expertise while making sure that my client has all the tools necessary to succeed.
I love that. I love that. And Amanda, what would you tell others so that they don't have to do the same thing you did?
Oh man, there's so many things, but I think one thing that was a big turning point for me was when I started thinking of things in general with an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, right? Like, if you think about it, when you're a coach, and I used to be guilty of this, right? If you're operating with a scarcity mindset, your mindset is, if I don't respond to this client quickly, they're going to leave. If I don't take on this person at 7 p.m., even though I wake up at 6, I need this. I need the money. I need this person. This lead won't come around again, right? It's, that mindset of, if I'm not always working, always pushing hard for my business, it's going to fail, right? All of those things are scarcity mindset. And the truth is, when you start thinking of things with an abundance mindset, right? Like, you have such an abundance of value that you're providing to clients. There are so many people out there who will benefit from what I have to offer. When you start changing your mindset in that way, you're able to set boundaries and you get more respect from people as a result. Like that's when you really start getting those clients that you love coaching because they respect you and they're not taking advantage of you. And, you know, you're not at a place where you're offering them a discount just to get them to come to you because you're worried that another lead won't come around. You're making more money, you're giving more value, you're getting better clients. You're able to just enjoy being a coach that much more. So abundance mindset, man, like there's so many billions of people on this earth. There's plenty of people to fill your roster, right?
Yeah. And that has to do with confidence too, right? Like when you've been an entrepreneur for so long and you know you've delivered consistent results with your clients, you realize that you are that valuable, that you don't have to sell yourself short. So I think that comes a little bit with experience. You know, in the beginning there's a fear because it's such a big transition and there's a lack of security. But once you have that base and you build that confidence, I think it should come naturally, you know?
Absolutely.
Believing in yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, clearly we need a part 2 because we're out of time, but we could keep going. But ladies, in the meantime, first of all, thank you so much for your time and energy. I know it is valuable. Where can people find you should they choose to get in touch, ask questions, whatever?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Thanks. I'm on amandajeanfit.com is our website. You can find me at amandajeanfit with an underscore at the end or AJF team as well.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Tara.
So I primarily use Instagram and I have a link directly on my Instagram. It's tinyt.fitness at, what is it? tinyt.fitness. Is that how we do Instagram? See, that's how good I am on social media. Yeah, it's tinyt.fitness. I don't find it.
Awesome.
I have someone to do my Instagram, so
perfect. And again, something we could go into on our next call for sure.
Exactly.
Thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate you. If you like us, subscribe, rate us, share with your friends on Instagram and Facebook. Hope we provided a ton of value. And in the meantime, go have the best rest of your day.
Thank you.